Good morning. Um, this is a little video podcast. I am going to come out with a podcast a little bit more formal later on, but kind of an opportunity right now to take advantage of to teach something. And it's not really related to what my podcast will be about. So here's the thing, it's about the 36 stratagems of Asia, more specifically, the stratagem of loot a burning house. Essentially, what loot a burning house is that you take advantage of someone else's misfortune in order to profit. The obvious example would be something like an earthquake hits an enemy province, and then you move and you take over while they're still trying to build, dig out of the rubble. And in that situation, of course, you rescue a lot of people that are going to welcome you instead of oppose you as conquerors. There's two different ways of doing this, basically. One is to create the problem, one is to jump on a problem that happens. And this is, the first type is like you use whisper campaigns and stuff like that to cause problems for the enemy, and then when they have that problems, you jump in. Uh, Vladimir Putin is very good at that. The other one is basically something happens and you're in a position to take advantage of it. Now, that is obviously easier said than done. You have to be in position to take advantage of it. You have to know the situation and the reality behind it. It's very easy to think that there's an opportunity, and it actually turns out to be, you shouldn't go there. The title "Loot a Burning House" refers to a house that is burning. There is danger, so you need to know what's going on. And right now, because of the banking situation, we have an opportunity to take a little lesson. Now, if you've read my ebook on the 36 stratagems, you might be aware that I use the example of Warren Buffett and American Express. Um, to recap, for those that might not know who Warren Buffett is, if you invest, you pretty much have heard of him. He used to be the richest person in the world, before the tech giants came along, and he got there through investing. So people tend to listen to him. And what happened is back in the 1960s, American Express, we know them mainly for the credit card now, but back in the day, that they are a banking industries, part of the banking industry. And back in the day, back in the 60s, they took on a large amount of collateral that they thought were tanker cars full of vegetable oil. Somebody went and checked, and they were actually filled with water. It cost them $60 million. Yeah, and this is 1960s money. Everyone started panicking. They sold the stock, and it just plummeted to record lows. Buffett was in Europe at the time vacationing, and he was able to read the papers, but a little bit farther away from things as they went on. This is before the internet. And he was, again, on vacation, so he was using American Express traveler's checks. And nowadays there's a lot of different traveler's checks, but back then American Express traveler's checks was basically it. There was a few others, but they weren't too popular, and it was a huge part of American Express's business. It was like a major part of their cash flow. And Buffett looked around and realized that this was not really affecting you know the traveler's check business. And as much as that hit was $60 million, it would not endanger their underlying business model. And it was a sound business model, and he realized that, and he threw 40% of his investment fund into it. He got a 5% stake, and he made millions and millions of dollars off of it. It was one of his best investments ever, just because he could see the situation for what it was, realizing that everyone was panicking. And he has a saying that basically, when everyone panics, I'm ecstatic, and when everyone's ecstatic, I'm panicking, which means that when everyone's like, "Oh, let's buy this stuff," he's like, "No." And that's the situation. And that's really a reason why a lot of crashes have happened. I've heard a story. In some cases, it's a guy talking to his cab driver, and others, it's a shoe shine boy. But this guy starts talking with them, and the kid or the driver said, talks about their stock picks, and he goes out and he sells all of his stocks right before a big correction. And the idea is that basically, when everyone's after something, that's the time to get out. And I've seen this with other things. I used to collect comic books back in the day. I saw the crash of that. Magic the Gathering, not quite as bad, but baseball cards, things like this. Generally speaking, if there's something that can be used, like you use a comic book to read it. If there's something that's can be used and it's collectible, and they start coming out with collector versions, that's when I get out. They start coming out with special covers for the comic books. That's when you want to stop collecting comic books for money, and that's why I won't go through to anywhere near cryptocurrency right now. I mean, if you need Bitcoin to keep yourself anonymous, there's a use for it. But now they're coming out with cryptocurrency, for investors. No, I'm not going near cryptocurrency right now. Look up OneCoin. There's a BBC podcast series on it that's excellent. But right now, the lesson that I'm talking about involves the banking industry. Three banks have basically had to be shut in the last week because they were insolvent, and they were all basically in one sector for the most part that I know of. And people are just dumping banking stocks left and right. It's not quite as bad as American Express from the looks of things, but there are some deals out there if you want to buy banking stocks. Is it a good idea to buy banking stocks right now? That is a question. When the subprime mortgage meltdown happened, yes, it was a good idea to get the hell out of it. In fact, you should never have been in the first place. That's easy in retrospect. On the other hand, sometimes things are just a bubble. It's just too much. Example of this around the turn of the century when the dot-com bubble burst. Yeah, there was a lot of companies that set themselves up just to take advantage of the fact that everyone was throwing money at anything that was tech related. But even though it was very overvalued, companies like Amazon are still around and still making money. Um, you know, is this a good time to jump into banking stocks? Is this a subprime mortgage or is this American Express? That is the question. And that is a lesson. That is the way to develop a skill right now, if you want to. And this is my suggestion. I am not suggesting you put any money in banking. Nope, 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 nope. Use this as a lesson, not as an investment opportunity. Um, Sometimes, the thing is that sometimes a subject and you can understand that 99% of the people do not understand a subject and are reacting wrong. That is the best time to use the stratagem of loot a burning house. Everyone's getting out of something and that, oh, no, no, or everyone is jumping on something, you realize, no, there's nothing to that, and you bet against it. But can you develop a skill to take advantage of an opportunity like the banking situation right now? My suggestion for this lesson is to go out and not invest money, but pretend to invest money. Get a journal, start reading about the whole situation. Is it a good investment? Is the banking system in general sound? Start looking up individual stocks. Understand what's involved in researching banking stocks. There's a lot to it. Can you do it? Can you take advantage of it? You're going to have to learn not just how banks work, but like where to get SEC filings online, sec.org. What type of filings are there? What's a PE ratio? What kind of reserves do banks require, in order to, be allowed to function? These types of things. My suggestion is pretend that like you're investing money, say that you've got $10,000 fake money, cryptocurrency, and just have a journal and say, this is what I like about this stock. This is what I do not like about this stock. I will invest with this stock or I will not invest with this stock. Put it down like a journal and just leave that there. We humans have a tendency, like, if you just go through this without writing things down so that you can see it later on, you're likely to find good things and bad things that would make you either want to buy the stock or not buy the stock. And 6 months from now, you're going to, if the stocks go up, you're going to remember all the good things that you found. And you're going like, oh yeah, I would have invested and I would have made some money. And if the stocks go down, you would remember all the bad points and convince yourself you would never bought the stock and convince yourself that you're a genius. Put it down on paper. Say if you would buy or not buy a stock and take a lesson from that. And then come back later on and see how you did. Learn in retrospect, because that's the thing with subprime mortgages. There was plenty of books saying what was wrong afterwards. But there were people before that saying that this was a very bad idea at the time, and nobody was listening to them. So that's it. Basically, this is a chance to develop some skills for one of the 36 stratagems of Asia. and you will not make any money this way this time. But if you develop that skill and learn how to jump on things, then when something else comes along, maybe something not even related to the stock market, probably not related to the stock market, you'll have developed a little bit of ability to sit back, research the situation, and develop a sound way of looking at the situation and making a decision on how to take advantage of it or not. You're going to have to practice before you actually put into practice. And before you put money into something, you better have some a little bit of fake investments and real research to determine if you got the ability or not. There we go. It's 36 stratagems. Again, I've got an ebook if you want to read it. There's other books, but yeah, develop the skill before you try to use it in real life. That's it. Have a good day.